allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome to our Monday, January 8th school board meeting. We are going to start with our organizational meeting. And with that, I will open it up to the floor for election of officers.
Madam President,
Yes,
I'd
Mr.
like to submit a motion to run a slate of officers based on last year and retaining each in their position as president, vice president, and secretary, and continuing by moving forward in my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I will second that motion.
Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Well, before you vote, if I could just make a comment. First of all, I'm okay with it and I will give my support. But I do want to encourage us, would like to encourage us to be inclusive of others on the board that need to have the experience of being in that leadership role. That may be a rotation basis or something, but we talked this many years ago and it never went to fruition, but I still think a rotation is good, and that's the only comment I have to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And we'll move on to B for reaffirmation of school board's code of ethics. Did everybody have an opportunity to review those?
Yes.
All right.
I move to reaffirm the school board's code of ethics.
We have a motion.
Second.
Second by Dr. Malco. Any discussion, questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll move on to number C, establishment of school board compensation.
So moved.
Motion by Dr. Malco, and I will second that. Any discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. And we'll move on to our appointment of school attorneys. Attorneys, excuse me.
I'll make a motion to approve the school attorneys.
We have a motion by Mrs. Kelly,
I'll second.
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions, discussion?
Could you clarify those attorneys? I know there's, yeah, Rob, thank you.
So we have the firm of Chris Sears and Zick as our normal school attorneys. As you're probably aware, Cheryl has retired, and our new liaison is going to be Jackie. So that's for that business. For special ed cases with Becky's office, continue to be Monica Conrad. And when we have bond counsel for any debt issuance, we'll continue to use Taft, which is Jimmy Shanahan's firm.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Our appointment of our treasurer,
I would like to move that we accept the treasurer, and that is Kathy Bamba.
Ramba.
Ramba.
Yep.
Yes.
I'll second that.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. We'll move on to our liaison appointments, and at this time, they are all staying the same of what we had in 2023, with the exception of we are adding the construction committee, and I will continue to serve on that. And then, Mrs. Kelly, were you still interested in the legislative liaison position?
I am not this year. I feel that Larry does an excellent job of keeping us updated on what's happening, and until some things change, I don't see the point in some of those meetings.
All right. Do we have any other board member that is interested in the legislative liaison position?
I will be willing to work on it.
All right. We will assign that position to Dr. Malco. And with that, do we have a motion to accept those positions?
I would like to move that we accept the liaison appointments as stated by Mrs. Suze, including the addition of the building project and the legislative. although I do have a question. Do we need to take off St. John Parks is already off? Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Dr. Medlin. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And then those that, the conflict of interest policy, do we have a motion for that?
Motion to approve the conflict of interest policy?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly,
Second.
second by Dr. Malco. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Motion passes.
I move to adjourn the organizational meeting.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. All right. Now I will call to order the school board meeting for January 8th. And we'll start with our agenda approval, deletions, additions. Dr. Baracco.
Thank you, Mrs. Suze. You do have two amendments under Roman numeral 7D, 1 and 2. You have additional professional leaves and field trip requests under Mrs. Schoeneman's section.
Move to approve the revised agenda?
Motion by Dr. Medlin,
Second.
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Is there any correspondence this evening, Mrs. Kelly?
There is not.
All right, we'll move into our liaison committee updates. Mr. Marshall?
Having started a brand-new year, 2024, I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Mrs. Kelly?
I also have nothing to report this evening.
Dr. Medlin?
The Wellness Committee met in December, and they have step challenge that they're using the Stride Kick app for all staff, teachers, administration. That's going to start February 1st, and they'll be grouped by building, and there'll be prizes for the team with the greatest average number of steps, and then the high steppers. A couple other things that they were talking about, during the winter, the field house is open every Monday and Wednesday from 7 to 9 p.m. if people want to walk the indoor track. They enter through door C. The Wellness Committee also put together a Canvas site online where people can look up recipes, and then there's some general wellness content. It's really a super nice site. And then finally, they're planning on doing a Couch to 5K training, I guess you would call it, kind of run individually through each of the buildings. And then they're training to do the Crown Point Hub Run, which is going to be Sunday in April. So that's about it, but lots of things on the agenda for them.
That's cool. That's very, very good. I like hearing that.
Did you say the building is open for walking 7 to 9 on Monday and Wednesday?
Yes.
And I have an idea, maybe you could take this back to your wellness. Of course, you'd have to have approval of certain individuals, but I have heard nothing but praise and praise and praise for the gymnasium that we have here at the workout facility that we have here at the high school. And I kept thinking, boy, that would be really nice if we could open that up to the public. Now, I don't know if that's even feasible. Maybe we could open it up to faculty to start with to see how it goes. And tell me, Rob, you got a little,
I would think we'd probably have some sort of liability issues with the equipment. It's one thing to have people walk on a track in a circle, but the risk of someone getting hurt using our equipment, then we could be found liable, even if it was just misuse on their piece. So it's tricky. So.
at one point in time, the pool was open for swimmers. Is that still happening, or that was stopped, I think?
I think there used to be a master's group that would come early in the mornings and or late, but that was kind of like it was a program that was actually set up through aquatics where people signed up, and it was for experienced swimmers. I believe, well, there's always lifeguards on duty when everyone's going to be in the pool, so some of those safeguards were there, but
It was open to anybody, but the numbers got so low that it was losing money week after week. And so, because we have to have 2 lifeguards in the chairs, even though the other supervisor was one of our employees who was participating, we couldn't get out of the lifeguard piece, and so we were losing money. And back to the gym piece, the issue is a lot of our equipment in there are free weights. And so the machines, even I belong to the Y, the machines, it's difficult to injure yourself on them because the cables keep the weights from moving freely. But the free weights, they have people in there supervising, so it requires manpower. So we would have to get different equipment to be able to be that kind of service.
Okay, thank you.
And then I had nothing for Dyer redevelopment.
Thank you. And Dr. Malco, your committees?
No, we have not met yet in the year 2024.
All right, and for my, I have three, but Dollars for Scholars, we're going to be gearing up for the seniors to come meet with us one day after school to explain how to sign up for 2024 scholarships, and then we have a construction meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. at Bibbage. So with that, we'll move on to our official school board business topics consent agenda. Dr. Baraco.
Thank you again. Seek board approval of the minutes from our meeting on December 11th. Also seek approval of the claims, payroll, and extracurricular expenditures you received in your packets last week.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second.
second by Dr. Medlin. Any discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. And there are no public comments, so we'll move into our official school board business topics, regular agenda. Dr. Baraco.
Thank you again. My first and only topic this evening is just to bring the board's attention to some legislative chatter. Today is the first day of the short session, so nothing's been voted on yet, but we've been given pretty clear indications that the General Assembly wants to focus on some educational issues. I've put three of them on the outline tonight. The first is this third grade retention piece. And in addition to the outline, I gave you the handout from the Indiana Chronicle, which talks about some of the drawbacks of retention. And so it's important for we educators to share with our elected officials some of the research. I think that there's a couple things going on that they also need to acknowledge. One is the Science of Reading initiative is full-blown, and it's novel. So let's consider giving that a chance to be successful. And if we want to hold schools more accountable, let's mandate the test in second grade, and then let's also ask for data and what are the intentional programs schools have implemented in grade 3 for those students, or maybe in summer school after grade 2 for those students who did not prove to be proficient at the third grade level. I also worry that, anytime we have a cut score that we just want to act like that we're positive that it's in the right place. If there are a lot of students slightly below it, there'd be no point in retaining them for a slight change when we have all this other information about those. Certainly, I say mixed results in my outline. Most of the research, at least that I've seen, demonstrates that after kindergarten, there are a lot of negative aspects to retention. So retention of third graders is going to be something I reach out to our lawmakers about, because I think it's damaging, and I think it's, there are other states who have had it and gotten rid of it. So there's a pretty big correlation to poverty and the students who get retained. And so I don't think we want to be known as somebody who is using that type of data and research to make decisions. There's another chronic absenteeism piece out there. I did find it startling that 221,000 students in the state of Indiana missed 18 days or more in the 2022-2023 school year. I don't know what the solutions will be. They're talking about considering some court action, but I just know there are a lot of students who are dealing with some pretty severe school stress and anxiety, and I don't know that the parents being punished because students are having a hard time getting to school is the answer. I think it's what are the other kinds of things we can do to support those students, whether it's through the school or through other community agencies. But we'll follow that piece closely. There's also a piece on revisiting career readiness with a goal of expanding the partnerships with the private sector, with internships and apprenticeships. And what we've seen is there are some folks willing to partner and bring in students with no experience, students who may not add that much value to their business, but down the road could really contribute, whether it be in their business or for someone else. But getting that up to scale is going to be a challenge. So I'm anxious to see what happens with that. There's a fourth piece that I didn't put on the outline, and that is cell phone use in schools. There are some legislators who want to require that cell phones be kept in lockers or not be brought to school at all. And I don't know that in the end that parents would appreciate that law. So I do think we've made some good strides in our school district in limiting cell phone use during the day. I think students are better engaged than they've been in the past. And so I applaud our administrators for implementing that, and I applaud our students for complying with the ask. And I think many of those students have benefited from being better engaged with their teacher and their peers and the school activities. So that's my legislative update, anticipating what might happen, because nothing has happened yet. But remember, it's a short session, so by the end of the first week of February, if something doesn't pass out of one side, it can't go to the other side. So it'll be fast and furious, but we'll keep the board posted either through email summaries or from here at the board meetings. Thanks.
Thank you. And we'll move on to our Assistant Superintendent, Mrs. Castaneda.
Thank you. My only item this evening is to seek your approval for the personnel recommendations.
So
Nope.
moved.
We have a
Second.
motion by Dr. Malco and a second by Mr. Marshall. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Bracy, our Director of Primary Education.
Good evening. I am seeking approval for the professional leave request provided in your packets.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly.
Second.
Second by Dr. Medlin. Any discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
In November, is this on? In November, we had 5 kindergarten teachers go down to Nashville, Tennessee to participate in the National Association for the Education of Young Children, or the NAEYC conference. And tonight we have Tina Dubrock here from Protzman. She's with her support team, and she's going to share her experience with you all.
Gosh, I haven't talked on a microphone in a long time. I came from Protzman. I'm at Protzman Elementary School. Many of you know me, but I haven't met everyone, so nice to meet some of you. We went to Nashville, Tennessee, and we thought it might be a small little, conference that we were going to. And boy, were we surprised when we got there. There were teachers there and administrators there from all 50 states and 29 countries around the world. So when we were sitting there going through these things that we had driven 6 hours to, you're kind of shocked when you hear someone say, well, I just flew in from Hawaii and we're doing this. It was all of our, well, you're both of your first time to one of these conferences, and I think it's been a good 20 years since I've been sent to one, and we hadn't had one so far away. And there was a lot of buzzwords going on, and there was a lot of things to choose from, as in we'd have about 35 different sessions to choose from every hour to 2 hours for 4 or 5 days long. One of the bigger ones that I would love for you to kind of look into and explore would be executive function. It is definitely out there. It is something that most teachers have not been trained in. It hasn't been something that's come up a lot, and there was a lot of sessions on that we attended. It is many times overviewed or overlooked, and we are misdiagnosing it in our schools as ADHD. It is the ability to use your working memory. It is what you use for self-control, for impulse, and also your flexibility. And we're getting a lot of kids in our elementary school, and I'm sure it's going on to our other schools, that are having problems in these areas. By the way, it is something that is taught. It is not something that you are born with. And so we are missing the boat on it. It is usually formed between the ages of 3 and 5. So we're not completely the ones missing the boat, but we're the ones who are getting the effect of it. So that is something that, as a kindergarten team, we wanted to look a little bit more into. One of the things they said that you could look up, and any one of you could look up as well, is 60 Minutes did a special on executive function. So if you want to look up a little bit more on that and get some ideas, that would be the place to go. So one of the other things they had with a lot of the administrators is that hiring is not just a problem in Indiana, it's a problem going on around the country. So we heard a lot of self-care. We went to quite a few of the self-care promotions on how to not want to quit, and how to keep going, and how to be better for our students, and how to be better for ourselves. So we did that as well. Science of Reading is definitely on the horizon, and we went to quite a few functions or sections for that. But luckily in our building, and because of Dr. Bracy, we've already been in quite a few trainings, and we found ourselves ahead of the game. So thank you for that. We were very excited to hear things and say, I already know that, and we do that, and we're doing this. So that was a good thing. I'm looking forward to seeing the curriculums coming down the line to see if they match up. Do you have any questions for me?
I always get confused when you use the term curriculums. Are you rewriting a curriculum? Or are you talking about the materials to teach the curriculum?
In March, we're supposed to receive a list from the state of Indiana of approved curriculum that we can adopt for the next school year.
Okay, so this is coming from the state.
Correct. So we're
Okay.
going to start meeting this month to identify what we're looking for, create a rubric so that whenever that list is released, we'll
Okay.
be ready to go.
So it really isn't anything necessarily new, it's just a
It is definitely not
We don't know
new.
yet. It's, yeah.
But the curriculum that the companies are making, they're going to have to bring in
Right.
new to keep up with.
That's going to be the
Correct.
foundation, and then you build from that. So, I don't know what I was going to ask you. I don't know, something about it. Okay, now it makes sense. So it's just really,
Well, it needs to, the
modifying.
biggest thing is it needs to be approved by the
Approved,
state of
yes.
Indiana, because we haven't had that as much to where across the country, they're looking into the curriculums and saying, no, this isn't allowed anymore. We're not allowing this. This is what we have to have. It needs to be up to this standard. So we're lucky that that's coming. We're just
Yes.
hoping that the companies rise up to the occasion, because we're learning everything that we need, not everybody, but we're working on
Right.
starting to get to learn about it. And now we're hoping that they don't just come in with buzzwords and say they're doing it. We want them to actually do it. So we
have-
need to,
yeah. I'm
look
sorry
through
to
it
interrupt. Go ahead.
closely.
Go ahead.
no, that was it.
So over the years since I've been out of the business, have you found that school book organizations and corporations on, the big kahunas that drive basically our curriculum, have they all pretty much morphed to a whole language curriculum?
No,
No?
away from whole language, completely away from it.
Now
aside-
we're going away from it, but before, did they go towards it? Is that what-
They skipped through. They went to whole language, and then they went to balanced literacy, and now it's switching. And this one's not a buzzword. This one is the how your brain works, how
Yeah.
it puts words into your brain lexicon, what part of the brain stores the
Right.
sounds, what part of the brain stores the words, and how does it store the words? Because we messed that up for a while.
Brain research.
hmm
Lovely, it's exciting.
It is very exciting.
It's good.
Tina, I have a comment, not a question.
Okay.
I want to thank you and your two compatriots there for going. I can sense the enthusiasm that come through, and I'm sure the corporation will benefit from your attendance.
I'd agree. I have to admit, companies do team building, and that's not something we get a lot of in our business, so it was really nice
Yeah.
to go.
absolutely.
It was a
That's
big
good.
team builder for us as well. And we learned a lot, and we discussed a lot. We mentioned that in past, you'd go by yourself and then come back and say things. We're sitting in there in the meetings, and we have our notes, and we're jotting things down, and we're saying, did you hear that? And we need to change this, and we need to do this. And then we'd walk out of there, and we're like, well, when we get back to school, we could do this. So it really was kind of nice for all of us to, re-energize ourselves, because everybody needs that once in a while, and then B, to do it together.
Was it the entire team that went?
Four of us went. Four of us went together. There was a fifth, and for family things, she wasn't able to go.
Oh.
And then, yeah.
Thank you.
Tina, before you sit down, unless I missed it, could you identify the other two teachers?
This is Melissa Ballinger. I can speak.
I'm
Yes.
Melissa Ballinger. And I'm Kristen Talbert.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All three of us are at Proxima. And we did have, Erin Durr was able to join us.
Yeah.
As
good.
a kindergarten teacher, another kindergarten from another school.
She's from Coling.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, our Director of Secondary Education, Mrs. Schoeneman.
Thank you. For my first item, I'm seeking your approval for the professional leave requests that you have received in your revised board packet.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly, and I will second that. Any questions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. For my second item, I'm seeking your approval for the field trip requests that are also in your board packet.
Move to approve the field trip requests.
Motion by Dr. Medlin,
So moved, or second.
second by Dr. Milko. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now on to Mrs. Grimala, our Director of Student Services.
Thank you. I am seeking approval for the professional leave request that was included in your board packet.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
I'll second.
second by Mrs. Kelly. Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our Director of Business Services, Mr. James.
Thank you. My first item is to give the board an update on our 2023 tax collections. And so on December 21st, all taxing units in Lake County received our final, the second half of settlement. And historically, we have always averaged around a 98% collection of the taxes that have been levied or in essence billed to our taxpayers. And this year, I'm happy to report that we had a collection rate of 101.4%. Now you're asking, wait, how can you have more than 100%? But sometimes people are delinquent in their taxes and maybe owe from prior years. And so we thank our delinquent taxpayers for getting caught up. And so that was some additional revenue that we weren't necessarily expecting. So that's great. And we thank our taxpayers for making their payments promptly, and we'll do it again here in May. I do have an update kind of related to that. It's not part of the agenda. So last week, we got our 2024 tax rate for Lake Central. And so last year in 2023, it was 84.41 cents. And this year in '24, it's going to be 80.32 cents. So down just over 4 cents for us here at Lake Central. How that will all reflect in with the individual municipal rates and the county rate, and I'll give the board an analysis of that in the spring when the tax bills come out and how we compare to the other school districts in the county and the other municipalities. But I'm happy to see that our rate's going down 4 cents for our taxpayers here this year. Any questions on any of that? Yep. Secondly is an update on our curricular materials. It's been a hot topic since April or May. And on December 29th, all school districts across the state received their distribution. And the amount per student ended up coming to $158.21 statewide, a little higher than the DOE's estimate of 151 or 152 from back in the spring. So for Lake Central, that equated to about $1.4 million that came in for that curriculum materials process. Our report to the state of how much our total amount was in cost was about $2.9 million. So we knew there was going to be a shortfall. Now, our loss isn't as significant as that looks because we use grant money from the ESSER funds, from common school loans, to pay for some of these curricular materials, the software and so forth, and our Chromebooks. So what we used to call our textbook rental fund or our curricular materials fund, it's not as if that fund is now shorted by that $1.4 million difference, but we are shorted. So we probably, if we looked about at what we normally would pay out of that particular fund and what money came in, we probably got about a 70-75% reimbursement or for our costs this year. So it's going to be something that once this data is gathered across statewide, we don't anticipate anything changing here in this short session, but maybe a year from now, there'll be at least some documentation about, okay, this is what that appropriation really needs to be statewide. Will it be 2 years' worth of information from all school districts, and we can go to the legislators with that. But we do have a shortfall. We did know this was coming, so it's in the future we will come to the board with some suggestions on how we can address that, whether or not it's moving money from the education fund into that curriculum materials fund to make it whole, or what our financial strategy is going to be on that. But we need some time to analyze that. It kind of comes in a little bit of a trick bag because we're paying for expenditures, we're making expenditures here in the spring for materials that we're going to be using in the fall. And so it's not necessarily period for period or 1 12-month. It's kind of, I can look at what our cash balance is here and how we're short, but I also know that we're not really going to get any more revenue in this 6 months because we're not charging parents. So we're not going to get any revenue like we normally would during the 6-month period, but we're going to start incurring more expenses. So just looking at how that fund sits right now isn't really a true reflection of where we need to be. So we'll dig into that a little bit deeper here after we get past our year-end closing, and then we'll come back to the board with a strategy. So.
Could I ask you, just because this is, that idea of free books has been going around the state of Indiana for many, many, many years, and it never happened, it never happened, it never happened. What caused it to happen this year? Do you know the history there? What was the instigation?
I think up until this point, there was only 2 or 3 states in the country that didn't have free textbooks to students, so we were an outlier in the first place. Secondly, the governor asked for it about a year ago, and then it got legs from both sides of the General Assembly. I do think that they looked at it as one way to help all Indiana families. So instead of property tax relief here or there or some other type of income tax change, this was something that can directly affect every family in Indiana that has children, and for it's a couple $100 per kid. I don't care what district you're in, so that's an automatic savings for them. So I think that was kind of some of the motivation.
Just curious. Why that happened and not preschool or, something like that? Just wondering.
Money in people's pockets,
Or
probably.
summer school, okay.
So.
All right, thank you.
My third item is to seek approval for the professional leave request that's in your board packet.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Marshall,
Second?
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. And my last item is to seek your approval for the donations that were in your board packet.
Motion to approve?
Motion by Mrs. Kelly,
Second?
second by Dr. Malco. Any questions, discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's all
And
I have.
there's no public comments, so we'll move into our board comments and consideration of future agenda items. Mr. Marshall?
Yes, thank you. Just a very general comment. Everyone, safe and joyful New Year.
Thank you. Mrs. Kelly?
No comments this evening.
Dr. Medlin?
No comment, thank you.
Dr. Malco?
Okay, first of all, I wanted to thank Dr. Bracy and Mrs. Schooneman. I sent out that email, and I think the source of it was perhaps Rob about that 95% resolution that I think we received it from Terry Spradlin with ISPA. Anyway, it's all about you know, holding us accountable. And I was very appreciative of the fact that both of you replied quickly and you had something to give me as far as data analysis. So I appreciate that. And we'll try to get together this week maybe. The Wellness Committee, Dr. Medlin, is it possible that you could include school board members in all those activities so we have some motivation?
Sarah?
So is that central office? Okay, so there's a group that's central office and administration, so I guess theoretically we could be.
Okay, we'll be with the central office.
And there's prizes too at stake, so.
Oh, yeah, we'll win, won't we? Yeah, absolutely. Executive function, you know, that's a term from several years ago, and how we just lose track of things like that, don't we? And now it's coming back alive again. It's very interesting. Maybe those should be our magic words of the year, the executive function. I bet most people don't know what it means and how it can really affect, like Tina was saying, the chaos they have, the confusion they have, the students have. So, Dr. Vracko, I think you and I talked the other day about your goals. So when you have a moment, if you could unpack those for, I think, all of us. I mean, maybe I'm the only one interested, but I would appreciate that.
I think he's.
Go ahead, Jennifer.
Nothing,
Oh.
sorry.
Is that all?
That's it. Thank you.
So I only have one thing. You know, in reading Mr. Von Osdol, and I know I'm saying his name is wrong, but, you know, January is School Board Appreciation Month. School board members devote their personal time and energy to making important decisions that expand opportunities for all students, as well as providing leadership for our school corporations. Thank you to Mr. Marshall, Mrs. Kelly, Dr. Medlin, and Dr. Malco for your passion, dedication, and public service to shaping Lake Central to the place it is today. So I just wanted to recognize that it's School Board Appreciation Month, so.
Oh, how nice.
Thank you, Cindy.
I would say
Thank
thank you
Dr.
for your
Vracko.
leadership.
Right
Oh.
back at ya.
All right, and that's all I have, so we'll move on to Dr. Rocco for board calendar, future activities.
So we'll be back here on Monday, January 22nd, and we have some inclement weather coming tonight. We'll be up at 4:30 and making sure that the roads are passable. The forecast is toned down on tonight's snow to only a couple of inches. The storm that looks more troubling is Thursday night into Friday, and then beginning again like Friday mid-morning, and potentially some heavy snow. So if we, just as long as I'm on the mic, what we do try to make a decision by 5:15 if we can, because that's the time when most of our drivers would be leaving their homes. And so if we're not going to leave on time, we don't want them to be out there risking themselves. So that's our goal. It doesn't always happen because sometimes the snow starts at 4:30 and it doesn't look too bad at 5:15, and then by 6 o'clock it's like, okay, now we're feeling different. So we do have to, do the best we can. But that's the plan for tomorrow, and we'll keep an eye on Thursday as well. Thank you.
Larry?
Yes, sir.
Availability of drivers, are we okay?
We're okay right now. Yeah. Chuck's done a good job getting people trained in the fall.
All right, do we have a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.